Alright, hey, what's up guys? Bars Unlimited here, coming back at you with yet another reaction video. Bryson, my friend Jake here.
Hey guys.
And we today are getting into, drumroll please, Disturbed! Woo!
I've been excited to get into some Disturbed songs for a long time for this channel.
Listen, you guys saw that Disturbed shirt I was wearing in our last handful of videos. You already know. As a side note though, I am a little upset because I was supposed to go to my first Disturbed concert this year. Screw COVID.
Yeah.
I was supposed to see them live in September. I have the tickets and everything for my birthday, and it got ruined because of COVID, so rip me.
And I personally picked this song as well because I love Disturbed too, and during COVID, it's some tough times. You know, we understand everyone's going through a lot of things. You know, it sucks. It changes a lot of things around us. It changes the way we go hang out with our friends, the way we go and enjoy the world. Like, you can't go anywhere without someone being like, put that mask on right now.
In a lot of ways, it's including it's affected how we do videos in some respects because, you know, you got to be aware of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can only meet so much, and especially with COVID going on, there's other things to think about. So we've had to adjust to that as well. I know so many people who have had to adjust in serious ways, and we just absolutely love Disturbed. If I had to be honest, I think so far that I've checked out, they are probably my favorite metal band. And really, they, along with Skillet, were the first ones that taught me that metal is not just, oh, that gives me a headache.
Yeah,
they were
exactly.
the first ones that I'm like, you know what?
I can get behind this. Them and Five Finger Death Punch for me, definitely.
Like, before that, I fell into the stigma of, dude, metal, turn that off. I'm going to get a headache. That's what my view of it always was. I didn't dare to look into it or anything. But what changed it was Disturbed being played at the skating rink for fast skates and stuff, and I'm like, you know what?
We're roller skaters.
Compared to other heavy metal bands and stuff that I've heard, this guy, especially David Draymond, his voice is something that I actually don't mind listening to. I always didn't mind, well, for the most part, I didn't ever mind the groove of it so much, but just the screamo, like, stuff, I'm just like, dude, get that the hell out of here. Like, I never wanted to listen to it. But then I'm like, I'm gonna give Disturbed a chance because I heard a couple songs, and literally, I don't think there's a song by them that I haven't heard that I did not love.
Yeah.
Like, I've listened to every one of their albums cover to cover. I've listened to live versions of different things. There's nothing I don't like about Disturbed.
That's like me with Phil Collins.
Exactly. Like, literally, for example, there are some metal bands that I enjoy, but if you just turned on the album, I couldn't just let it play through. There are some songs or some bands, like Slipknot, for instance, is one for me where I could not just buy a Slipknot album and let it play through cover to cover, because either I love the song or it is so that I don't want to let it play through.
Yeah, at all.
Like, I don't like it. Like, I don't want to hear it. Nothing. Disturbed, there is not a single Disturbed song out there that I've heard where I could not at least let it play through, even if it's not out of here for me.
Yeah. It's
still like, you know what? It sounds good. So I haven't heard this song in a while, so I'm really excited for it. And I've never seen the music video for this song, so let's see what this is all about.
I've never seen the full music video either because I just like to pay attention to the lyrics of the song because it's an incredible song. You know, it's a fight song. It's one of those songs that makes you want to rise out of the dirt when you're down in it, and it's definitely helped me in my times. And I definitely believe everyone should hear this song at least once when they're going through a tough time.
Amen to that. So with that being said, Disturbed, A Reason to Fight, let's get it.
The image in your eyes
That's all the lyrics. That whole sheet is the whole.
That has taken you. I hear it in your voice, so ridden with shame from what's ailing you. I won't give up, so don't give in. You've fallen down, but you can rise again. So don't give up when the demon that's inside you.
The beginning of that is so beautiful that, I mean, it's just like, wow. You're just like listening to it. And again, like we say this with certain types of music where I don't even care what he's saying. And to an extent, I do care what he's saying because that's what adds the power. But just the way that he's singing it, like he could be like Fruit Loops and Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Honey Bunches. And I'm like, dude, that's beautiful. Beautiful. And
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to sing it because, you know, I don't want to put you guys through that as the listeners. But what I will say is no matter what he's saying, you're just like I could listen to that all day long.
And that's one thing I give props for David Draymond for is he's not just a metal artist that's always yelling. He can take it to that softer tone.
Dude.
And then like you just heard when he's like, he goes, so don't and then he goes, don't give up, and he gets high in that soft tone, and then he just comes hammering down.
Yeah, and I just recently watched him perform The Sound of Silence live, which I had never seen before. Now, obviously, I've heard him do The Sound of Silence on Immortalize. Also, about a week ago or a couple days ago, Immortalize, we celebrated 10 years since 5 years, sorry. 5 years since Immortalize came out. Awesome album. Love it. Love it. But with that being said, absolutely amazing. If you guys want to hear like what he was talking about, the way he changes up the vocals and stuff, Sound of Silence live performance of his is absolutely incredible. The way he changes his voice inflections throughout, gets heavier gradually, stretches notes. Amazing singer.
And I've seen a couple of those live performances of that song and this song. So
yeah,
it's great.
It's just amazing, and just the way that it went from him just soft melodic kind of la 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 thing to and the demon inside. You know, oh my god, that's fire.
When that normally gives me chills. That when he does that, I'm like, damn, okay,
dude. If it wasn't the summer, I have a couple goosebumped brothers over here.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. So let's
when the demon that's inside you is ready to begin, and it feels like it's a battle that you will never win. When you're aching for the fire and I'm begging for your sin, when there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason to fight.
So one thing that I wanted to point out is, like I said, it's been a while since I've heard this song, and I knew that drop was coming, but I remember it being a lot more heavier than that. But it's just because he goes from such a beautiful thing to something that's not intended to be completely beautiful, but it's actually some sort of a groove, that it makes it feel so much heavier.
Yeah.
But if you just listen to it, it's really not like, oh my god, that is sick. He didn't really do anything that crazy in terms of the drop.
Yeah.
It wasn't like out of nowhere and all of a sudden you're rocking out. It was just kind of a little bit heavier, I guess. But because of the way he was singing and the intensity amped up in his voice, it makes it seem like, oh my god, that was out of here. But it really was just
him just,
influxing his voice. Like the music in the background didn't get that insanely heavy. And that's amazing to me, that he can make it feel like a huge, like, uh-oh, here it comes.
Even though when it's just like, He's just a little bit of inflection on his voice and the instrumental a little bit, like.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
like
but it still sounds good. Like everyone's heard a disappointing beat drop, and you're like, oh, that kind of sucked. But like when this one, you're expecting a giant build up, and like when it hits, you're like, it's not as big as I thought, but this still sounds amazing. Like,
dude, for reals, for reals.
So one of the things I wanted to point out real quick is what I'm captivating from this music video is it looks like it's telling the tale of a man holding a bottle, possibly struggling with alcohol abuse, alcohol consumption, alcoholism, and it looks like he's like him, like the guy holding the bottle is like stumbling around, but it looks like the guy in the bottle is his soul looking at his family through the glass, because you can see his kids and his wife and stuff, and they're suffering. The wife looks like she's suffering with it, and it looks like he wants to break out of that, which I know a lot of people, especially Ivan Moody from Five Finger Death Punch, the lead singer, he struggled with alcoholism forever.
Yeah.
And that's something that definitely a lot of people and families struggle with. So
yeah, I was gonna say I have a history of alcoholism in my family as well, and it's just a tough thing, especially because like in some, depending on your field of work and stuff, it's almost kind of encouraged. Like, oh yeah, it's just natural
just
after
have a
work
drink,
to go get a drink with the guys. I mean, that's what you do. Like, for instance, my grandfather, he was in the Navy, I believe, and it was just commonplace to smoke, like, at the time. It was like more, I mean, smoking was just a thing you did. Then afterwards, drinking.
Yeah.
I mean, they went hand in hand. Unfortunately, it took a toll on him, and he ended up becoming, somewhat of a alcoholic. But it happens all the time, and it's not just because people are like, hey, let's go see how many nights in a row I can get wasted. I mean, some of these things, it's like I said, their jobs and stuff almost kind of encourage the chances of it happening, because it's just commonplace for these things to go on.
Yeah.
And I
agree with you there.
completely feel what he's talking about here. He said, when the demon that's inside you is ready to begin, and it feels like it's a battle that you'll never win, when you're aching for the fire and begging for your sin, when there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason to fight. What beautiful writing in that part right there.
Yeah.
And just, you're, yeah, I don't know what to say. It's just incredible.
Lost in your world of lies, I find it so hard to believe in you. Can it be real this time, or just a part of this game that we're playing through? I won't give up, so don't give in. You've fallen down, but you will rise again. I won't give up when the demon that's inside you is ready to begin. And it feels like it's a battle and you will never win. When you're aching for the fire and begging for your sin, when there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason to fight. Don't let it take your soul. Look at me, take control. We're going to fight this war. This is nothing worth dying for. Are you ready to begin? This is a battle that we are gonna win.
And one of the things about that is every time I hear that exact line where it gets quiet and he says, "Are you ready to begin? This feels like a battle that we are gonna win. I picture myself like on my knees and David Draymond like looking at me like saying like we're gonna get through this. Like when he's saying that, when he says we, instead of saying this is a battle that you are gonna win, like when he says we, it just feels so much more impactful. Like it feels like he's like reaching his hand out when I'm on the ground and he's like, let's get up and we're gonna make it together. Like
Hmm. Yeah, this whole song is very like you said, it's very impactful. I mean, like for part of it, he's talking like for basically the entire song, he's talking almost like he's talking to you. Like you've fallen down, but you will rise again. I won't give up, so don't give in. You know, when the demon that's inside you is ready to begin, and it feels like it's a battle that you'll never win, then he says, are you ready to begin? This is a battle that we are going to win.
yeah.
And I know that this is not necessarily intended to be like a religious song, but I almost kind of look at it from that point of view also.
And you
Like
definitely
some
could
of
like
these lines, like he says, this is a battle that we are going to win, almost like you were talking about like David Draymond himself, or like kind of picturing like God, like, hey, you know, I know you've been through some stuff, and I know that, you know, you're in a tough place and it feels like everything's collapsing around you, but are you ready to start fighting?
because
Because
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
make
do this. And I know I don't know what, you know, Disturbed, I don't know if they have ever mentioned their religious points of view or anything like that, if they have any. And I'm sure that this is just supposed to be a motivational thing, not necessarily intended to go there. But I'm just saying that you can relate things that relate to you and take lyrics that may not be intended, but if they relate to you in some way, that's great. You know what I mean?
yeah.
If you can find another way for them to help you, and for me personally, that's kind of how I look at it. Is not just, I mean, the lyrics themselves are great, but just also kind of looking at it. Like I said, it's probably not intended to be like a religious song, but you can easily look at this. A lot of what he's saying, and almost as if a conversation with God,
Yeah.
or God is telling you these things. And
And
I know that not everybody's religious, and everybody is, you know, feel free to have your own opinion about that stuff. For me personally, I do believe in God, and so I sometimes equate things to that. And for me, that's kind of an easy thing for me to equate this song to. Is like it's almost like a conversation with God, a
and
little bit.
one of the things I like about this song too is when he uses words like we, and he says
Yes.
don't let it take your soul, um like we're going to fight this war. Like it makes you feel less alone when he says this is the battle that we are gonna win. Like whether it's David Draymond talking to you, or if you're religious in that state, God in that state, you know,
Yep.
like you have a partner to fight with. You're not on your own. Because when someone says, "Oh, you can do this," like it feels good, yeah, but it feels a lot better when they say, "Hey, we can do this, and we will help you through it." Like,
Yep. And I like the part too where he says, don't let it take your soul. Look at me take control. When knowing to fight this war, this is nothing worth dying for. And I definitely feel like that's something that a lot of people can relate to and really feel, because I think that a lot of times what keeps people alive when they're struggling is the fact of, I couldn't do that to my family.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And in the grand scheme of things, like for me personally, family is like right up there at the top. And so anytime that I'm struggling with something, I wouldn't say that I've ever been at a point where I was like suicidal or anything, but I would definitely say that when I've been at my lower points, the biggest thing that I always thought to myself is like, before it even entered the equation, is basically like what he said, is like, you know what? I couldn't do that to my family. This is not my little issue in the grand scheme of thing, is
not worth dying
nothing
for.
worth the pain that I would cause other people by not being here.
And
potentially.
that's one thing I feel bad for is like I've had, like, I'm gonna be honest, I've hit those low points where, like, you know, thinking that it could be better not to be in this world. But then I think, like, when you think like that, you're normally younger. Like, I know there's a lot of adults that struggle with it too, but like as a kid, I'm only 20 years old, just turned 20 like a couple months ago.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm only 20. There's still so much left to see and learn and know and do. Like why would I want to jeopardize like the possibility of finding the light like at the end? Like nothing's dark forever.
Yep.
And for all of you young people too struggling with that feeling, you know, like your family, you know, if you left, they'd be in the same thing. Like they'd be in the same thing you were, just they'd be still living on. They'd
'Cause
they'd have to deal with that.
because they just lost their world, just like you lost yours.
And you can find yours, you know, but like I said, even for those older people, like you still got time. There's always time to find the way out
Yep.
if you make it.
Yep.
If you
And-
don't want to bother making sorry, if you don't want to take the time to make your way out, you will never find your way out, and that's what I learned. It took me forever to find mine, but I did, and I'm glad I did.
I completely agree.
So, ready to finish this tune out?
Yeah, let's finish.
Let's get
This
it.
is a battle that we are gonna win. When you're aching for the fire and begging for your sin, when there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason. When the demon that's inside you is ready to begin, and it feels like it's a battle that you will never win. When you're aching for the fire and begging for your sin, when there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason to fight. I'll be your reason to fight. Give you a reason to fight.
And that is exactly my point. Like he was in a bad place. He was almost to like the very end of himself. And then right there, you saw it yourself. That door opened and inside was the light. Now,
Mhm.
everyone's light is different. His light, you know, his family's behind there. You saw that in the video. He used the ring that his wife took off, carved himself out of that situation, and he found his way back to the light because he didn't give up. Like he
Mhm.
could have just sat there in that bottle and been like, "Well, I guess I'll die now,"
Mhm.
but it wasn't worth dying for. You know, he had something to fight for, and that's what you have too. Everybody.
And just a overall beautiful song. I love the way that it ended. It says, when you're aching for the fire and begging for your sin, when there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason to fight. I'll be your reason to fight. Give you a reason to fight. And I just love that because, again, relatability is everything. And for me, because of the fact, now, like I said before, I have had those thoughts, like you said, like, I think maybe there's been times where the world would be better without me. However, I'd never thought about actually acting on that.
Yeah.
But I definitely had those thoughts, like, wow, all these situations would be so much better if I just wasn't around. So with that being said, though, because of the fact that I was at where I was at for a long time, and I now feel that I am on the other side of it.
Me too.
I'm so much better now, and I've made it my business to be the person that not only takes what they went through and uses it as a reason to push forward, but to help other people out along the way.
Yeah.
Be the reason to fight. Give you a reason. Not tell you. I don't want to be the person that says, "Oh yeah, well, my advice is to do this and to do that." Yes, that's important, but I want to be there side by side. Let's go.
Yeah, like we're gonna do it together, and
Yeah,
that's one thing
exactly.
that's one thing that I've been doing ever since.
And yeah, exactly. And like, you know what? When there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason to fight. I'll be your reason to fight. I approach so many situations from that standpoint because some people are like, well, there's nothing to live for. well then I will be what there is to live for. I will come in and do whatever I can to change your life the best way that I can. Now, I realize nobody's perfect. I am definitely not saying that I'm perfect, and that doesn't always result in people getting better. But what I will say is that is the mindset that I take. It's like, you know what? If you're looking for a reason, I'll be your reason to keep going.
Yep.
I'm going to be the exception in your life. And that's what I strive to be.
And that's one thing I hope others strive to be too for other people. You know, once you get out of your dark place,
yep,
you know, run back to the other end of the tunnel and help other people who are
yep,
there. Because you know how to find your way through now. Now it's time to help them.
Yep. And I've always believed, to some extent, what's the purpose of going through things if you don't do anything with it? Exactly. Except let it control your life moving forward. Now, there's a difference between letting it control you and using it to better yourself and push you and propel you to higher places. I get that. But what I'm saying is if you, I look at everything, no matter what I've been through, as an opportunity to make a difference for somebody else. If I look at something that happened to me and I say, well, you know what, that sucked, that hurt, but now I know what that feels like. So if I meet somebody that's going through that, I can now help them because I've been there. All it does is give you more relatability. The more stuff you go through, the more things pile on, the more everything seems to be happening at once. Then all you're really doing is relating to more and more people who have been there, are there, or will be there. And then that is how you can make a difference. That is how you be the reason to fight. That is how I give you a reason to fight. And that is something that I learned is, again, like I said, what's the point of going through this stuff if you're just going to hold on to it and not use it? As far as I'm concerned, if you've been through these things, this is an opportunity for you to then take what you've learned and pass it down to other people. Because as he alluded to earlier, I feel like I've come out of it. I feel like he's come out of it. He feels like
he was there for it. So
he feels like he's come out of it. But that's not everyone's story. Some people have been stuck in it for however long, and they don't have that person that is wanting to be the reason or whatever. And for that reason, you have Disturbed.
Yeah.
Because he'll be that reason. And he'll make emotional, powerful music for you to listen to. And
definitely powerful.
Help you out. And the last thing that I also wanted to say is that this song came from their most recent album, Evolution. I know that we didn't talk about that at the beginning, but this album came out in 2018, I believe, or 2019. I think it was 2018. And really good album. Great to have them back, because they generally take about 3 years off in between each album. Well, not off. I mean, they still perform live, but in terms of making new music, it's usually like a 3-year gap between each album. And so it just was really great to hear them back, because I really got into them after Immortalized had already been out and Evolution had not came yet. So it was like, oh, is this it? Like, okay, well, I've listened to all their music. And then I'm like, oh, there's a new album coming out. Okay, cool. So this was my first, as a Disturbed fan, this was my first new album that they released since I became a fan. And so it has some sentimental value to me. Yeah. This song is amazing. Love everything about it. The messaging, playlist, just the music,
playlist,
staylist, whatever you want to call it. Great album. Loved Evolution, and just Disturbed is incredible. David Draymond, absolutely amazing. And even though they didn't get too crazy with the riffs, it was still just beautiful. Beautiful. That's the best word to describe it. This is just a beautiful song. And if you guys know anybody that's going through a hard time, or you yourself are going through a hard time, I highly, highly recommend putting this on your playlist and just listening to it when things start getting rough, because I truly believe that sometimes music is the biggest support system that you have.
I agree with that one right there. Yeah.
There's so many artists that have been through so much, and there are people that are out there addressing these things. And even though it seems like they're way up here, they're making all this money, they're going on tour, they're living in the high life, and you're way down here with your 9 to 5 job, life sucks and stuff. It ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
Up there, yeah, either.
Like
At all.
we talked about in the Big Crit video, the price of fame. And for some people, the price of fame is quite a bit. And like you mentioned in the price of fame video, there's a good portion of celebrity population and stuff that struggles with alcoholism and
Yeah, a
things
lot of
like
them.
that. So
A whole lot of them.
yes, they're way up here, but that doesn't mean that they're not struggling with some of these things. People like NF, MGK sometimes talks about it. Artists like Motionless in White, I believe, has a number of songs where he's talking about depression and difficult things.
Five Finger Death Punch has a lot of those
Five
songs.
Finger Death Punch. The list goes on and on. If you look for it, it's there, and music can pull you through so much stuff. And I even know, I mean, again, I don't, whether you believe in all the religious stuff or not, there's definitely quite a few artists that are more religious that I listen to that really pull me through stuff. So, but anyways, with that being said, guys, this is a great song. If you haven't listened to it, again, I would highly suggest you click out of this video and watch the video for yourself. Listen to it. Disturbed, we both love Disturbed. We'll be getting to way more Disturbed on this channel. Believe you me, if you're a Disturbed fan, it's not just a one and done. We'll be getting back, and I will be wearing my shirt. So, all right. With that being said, guys, any last thoughts?
Definitely check this song out. Help someone in need, man. Like, it's tough having nobody sometimes, but I always thought that even when you think you have nobody, there's always somebody.
Yep.
So
Amen to that.
and be that somebody for someone else. So
Amen. Couldn't have said it better. So with that being said, guys, this is Jake, Bryson. We'll see you guys in the next video.